Welcome, welcome, welcome to a wonderful, wonderful show. Now, come on, Mr. Simmer down. We've all seen the new frock. And you, sir. Try and pretend you're not drunk, okie dokie. Now, come on, I want you to welcome on stage now, Rachel Ashley's Your Turn.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the legend that is Ben Chambers. Hiya, Ben. How are you?
I'm okay, Rachel. That word legend is so overused, isn't it? You know what? Back in the day, it genuinely used to mean somebody that slayed a dragon and freed a damsel from its fiery grasp. These days, it just means coming back from the bar with crisps.
Well, I think that's reasonable these days, don't you?
I just think that it's just one of those words that actually has lost all its meaning. But if you want to refer to me as a legend, that is fine.
Do you know what? I was going to say the man in the hat, which I kind of,
Do you know what? I know this is audio only, but I am wearing a hat right now.
There you go, you see? There you go. And we haven't even got a video connection.
I know we don't. And normally when I do an interview, I like to see the other person I'm speaking to. But I've just got this weird little icon of you that throbs when you speak in front of me. So that's it. But no, it's great to be on Your Turn. Does this mean that I get the Ricky Tomlinson jingle before we... Oh, yes. How exciting.
I know, it's fantastic. He was such a legend to do that for us.
He was.
And what he fails to realise is that now I'm kind of doing a load of rejoiners, which I don't know how he'd feel about that.
I think he'd be happy that you were doing a load of rejoiners than doing a load of gammon. If that's... Oh, sorry, I've got my lines crossed. I think I've lied again. Anyway, let's keep it clean.
Anyway, Ben Chambers, musician, broadcaster, campaigner. Now, you've always been a musician, haven't you? But you haven't always been. You haven't always been a broadcaster or a campaigner. So let's rewind. Let's go to the music. What's your vibe, your groove? I know you do like the EDM stuff. Were you always a musician, or how did that come about?
No. I've always loved music. I actually at university I did an English and drama degree. And that was my thing for a very long time.
Okay.
But music has been something that I think someone once said, and I've never been able to get to the source of this quote. You might know the answer, that all art aspires to the condition of music, and that there's no other art form that can make you. I talked about this last week with Jessie Grace on the show. You know, makes you want to punch the sky, makes you want to cry, makes you want to laugh, makes you feel something on a very deep, soulful level, if you believe in the soul. All art wants to do that, painting, sculpture, film, novels, but music is the best place to do that. And it's and for me, I mean, the thing about music is I was never a great believer in actually learning how to read the bloody thing. When I was 9, I had piano lessons for about a year. It became like school. I was never rapped over the knuckles with a ruler, but it felt like an extension of school rather than fun. And I thought, hang on a minute. I like watching my mum and listening to my mum play.
So you come from a musical family.
Well, my mum very much so, yeah. My dad not so much really. He's a carpenter. He's more of a hands. Well, both. Still
a creative though.
Still very much a creative, but my mum could play by ear. She would just, or is it the other way around? Sight read. It's sight read.
The cleverest people do both.
She could sight read.
Yeah.
And this is the thing. I was amazed at how you could just put these squiggles and dots down in front of her and she'd be able to work it out. And within a few minutes, it would sound like, oh my goodness, amazing.
I know.
I can't do that because I just thought the dots and squiggles for me became a source of real stress and anxiety.
Oh, what a shame.
The little old lady that was teaching me lived in this big scary house in Kings Lynn, where I grew up in Norfolk. And I'm pretty certain that one day she said, "Do you want to come and have a look upstairs?" Because I was often focused by her very dark hallway going up to this landing, and that wasn't the reason I quit. I don't think she was, hitting on me. I was only about 9, but it was.
No, but that's terrifying.
It was a bit. The whole thing was terrifying because the first grade, as they call it, came up. And it was like, oh my God, this is just an exam. This is
well, it
not
is. Yeah.
fun.
No.
It really isn't. And what I wanted to do was play by ear. So I would then just like take Bruno Brooks's chart show on a Sunday afternoon. I would listen to film scores particularly and just figure the bloody things out. I would, the right hand, the melody. I think, well, what sounds nice? What can I do with my other hand? Obviously, as a 14-year-old boy, there are several options there. But I thought, what I might do, whilst composed, what I might do is just, this sounds nice. This sort of arpeggio thing. Oh, it's an arpeggio. That's what they call it? Oh, whatever. I don't care what they call it. It just sounds nice.
Yeah.
And for me, if it's not fun to create music, if it's not enjoyable, if you're not having a good time, then you're wasting your time. And I know music notation is for some people. That's their access point into it. That's how we share music ideas across language barriers in different countries. But for me, God, no, that was just a barrier. It was just a barrier itself. I thought, I'm not going there. So what I do with all the music that I try and create, and I've got one bless him, one major client. He might be listening, Graham Paul Kendrick down in the South Coast in Christchurch. We never use musical notation. The most he'll do is send me what he calls a lead sheet with the lyrics on and the chords above some of them.
Right. So you can read chord charts.
No, not a chord chart, just like F minor,
Right, but you know what an F minor is?
Oh, yes, I do, because
right,
Cubase tells me.
Oh, I see. Fair enough.
No, I do know. Yeah. If someone said to me, I can play the major and minor chords, and I think when someone talks about a seventh or a major seventh, it's kind of like you just move the last little finger down a note, and it just sounds kind of cool, like it's leading into something. Yeah. That's how I think about music. It's like the emotions you want to create in somebody. So
music tells you itself, doesn't it?
It does, and I love music. Yeah. Music is brilliant, and to be honest, at the time the bastard referendum happened in 2016, I was just getting my little music business off the ground properly,
right,
and starting to sort of make a go of it. And I've been at that stage with it ever since, with one, maybe two people that I'm working with, earning less than a part-time wage. Yeah. Brexit came along and scuppered all of that, and I still really don't understand why.
Well, because there are lots of reasons why, aren't there? But people who tend to be into things like Brexit tend not to be into the arts as a general kind of
are so right.
Sweeping statement. They never were. They never will be. And well,
you know where that is, don't you? It's not just an ignorance intelligence thing and an upbringing thing and an academic thing. It's a destructive creative thing. I mean, the arts are creative. They put things together. They make something. Yeah. They leave a mark.
They also
everything
make people
about Brexit
feel things.
They do, and everything about Brexit certainly makes some people feel things, but it's a tearing down. It's a dissembling. Yeah. It's a ripping apart of things that were already there and good.
So it's an antithesis of music.
Totally. It's the antithesis of all creative arts, of anything creative that you can do as a human being. Brexit is the arch nemesis of that. Yeah, I think.
I have to say, I mean, I know a lot of musicians, and a lot of them have given up since Brexit, which is just heartbreaking. It really is. Some truly talented people have simply just given up. Because it has had a real world impact. And of course, and not just, I mean, organisations like the European movement bang on about touring, but it's not just touring, but it's the impact that it's had on the entire economy. And, going to see a band or whatever, it's a luxury.
No, it totally is. I mean, this isn't my point. This isn't my sort of access point into music. I'm not a gigging musician. I play the piano. I can play the keyboards. When I was a teenager, I was in an orchestra for a short while at school and played the timpani. The only reason I chose the timpani was because someone told me that was the highest paid member of an orchestra.
Oh, really?
I don't know if it's true or not. And I thought, well, if I'm going to do this thing...
I'll ask my husband, because he was an orchestral percussionist.
So
he'd know.
You spend the entire time counting
Doesn't
in your head.
Right.
It's so bloody boring. And occasionally you get to whack the bloody big drums and make a big fuss and look around grinning at the audience. Most of the time you're waiting for something. I mean, it's a crap instrument to play. It really is. But no, I'm a pianist. I'm a total pianist. I can play the keyboards and the piano. That's my point. And that's why I love, working with Cubase like you do, the digital audio workstation, is because whether you want to play the cello, a trumpet, or the drums, it's all on the keyboard.
Yeah,
it's
cool. It's all there. Yeah, it's all there. So 2016 comes along. I mean, you weren't remotely politically active before that, were you?
That would be an accurate assessment.
I mean, were you aware of left and right and were you aware of what the...
I wasn't aware of left and right. I can drive.
I mean, politically, you know,
Yeah.
you know, I mean...
Do you know what, though? I wasn't. And this is the honest truth. What I knew about politics were a couple of things. One, that there were elections that I was supposed to vote in. And apart from the general election, which I knew was more important than all the silly local ones, I voted in that. And I voted Labour purely because my parents voted Tory. They weren't horrible, nasty, evil, racist Tories. And I didn't know anything about left and right at that point. They just voted Tory, and you're not supposed to do what your parents did politically or probably religiously or anything like that. So I just voted Labour because I kind of thought, well, what I do know about them, i.e. Tony Blair, seems like quite a nice guy, really. Tony Blair, his trousers flare, as they say. He's got a big smile. He rolls his sleeves up. He comes out at number 10 drinking a coffee. Oh, he's nicer than John Major. John Major's boring. More peas, dear. More peas, Norma.
Yeah.
It was, and I just thought that's all I knew about politics. I didn't vote in the local elections. I didn't understand them at all. God, I knew nothing about European elections.
Well, that was my next question. Yeah. Did you know anything at all about the European Union?
No, nothing at all. I don't even know if I knew what it was, that we were in it. I mean, obviously, I'm making myself sound incredibly ignorant.
No, you're not.
I went to university.
You're not, though, Ben, because you're sounding like most normal people.
I haven't got time for that. Who has time for that?
Exactly.
You know, the only thing I had time for was, who do I want to be my prime minister? Tony Blair or John Major? Probably Tony Blair. Everyone seems to like him. Blur and Oasis like him. That'll do for me.
Yeah.
So I'll go for that. No, but it really genuinely was a light bulb moment, and it sounds, a little bit cliched, but knowing nothing about the background of politics, knowing the EU was there, knowing that we were a member of it, and things were ticking along pretty nicely in that respect. That's all I had to go on. What I did know was everybody I looked around and admired in life turned out to be on the Remain side of the argument.
Okay, that's interesting.
Everybody I looked at and thought, you're a bit dodgy. I'm not quite sure what your game is. Is it just a grift? Are you a little bit racist? Is there something wrong with you? Do you not like brown people, black people? All those people appeared to be on the other side. And when Joe Cox was murdered by someone that had, leave literature on him, and I know it's not just a simple case of that's why he did it, but he was in that gang. Do you know what I mean? And I kind of thought, okay, that's the wrong side of this one. That's pretty obvious to me.
Okay.
I don't know enough about why we should remain, but I'm pretty certain that's the correct answer to this question.
Hey, they're valid reasons, though, aren't they?
And when we got it wrong as a country, that's when I started to scratch the surface. I remember I worked with a guy in the very early days of the campaign in Birmingham called George. He's since, I think, moved away, but he was a real inspiration to me. And we had long conversations. I'd go and stay with Chris Hoffman in Birmingham, and we'd wander around the streets of Birmingham, and he'd take me to cafes and things, and he educated me on an awful lot of politics.
Okay.
And I wish I was still in touch with him because he was a lovely guy. But he said, Ben, you've only got to scratch the surface a little bit, and then A, you'll find out what you need to know. B, you'll be so intrigued you'll keep digging.
Yeah.
And that's what I did over the early years of the campaign. And that cemented my understanding of what we'd done as a country, how wrong it was, but also how wrong the powers that be were to ask us the damn question in the first place.
Absolutely.
Because none of us had a clue. None of us had a clue.
No.
And I just thought, we've been asked a silly question. We've got the answer absolutely wrong. It has to be put right, because the damage this is going to do, from the research I did, was catastrophic on every level, by every metric, and would affect every decent person living in this country. Yeah. The only beneficiaries were going to be those who were already multimillionaires, if not billionaires, who had no principles. They were in it for the grift. They weren't left or right. They were just in it for me. They were just me. People like Farage, people like Aaron Banks, people like Crispin Odey, that awful hedge fund manager who literally made millions on the night of the referendum by betting against the pound. I mean, oh my God. So it just became ever clearer to me in, I think, probably about 6 months after. And by the beginning of 2017, I was so fired up about it. And I'd already started the little radio show by then, because I thought, well, what can I do? I don't know anything about politics. I'm not an expert. I'm a musician.
Yeah.
And I just thought, I came up with this idea for a little radio show, and
it's still going. And this week, you've literally
only because I'm mental. I must be.
But you know what? You've just released episode 301.
Yes, well, that's a weird way of looking at it. Episode 300 was the landmark, Rachel. That was the milestone.
I know,
No,
but but you know, I endeavour to tell the truth at all times, and
well, that's very good.
and today, yesterday, Monday, whichever day, this week, it's episode 301. I don't
You're
even.
right.
Do you know what? I don't even know what day it is.
It's the. Do you know? I'll tell you what day it bloody is.
I know it's April Fool's Day,
which I believe ends at midday. So this entire conversation could be a mirage, a joke.
Yeah.
And I could be lying.
Yeah.
I'm going to reveal live on air that I've moved over to the dark side. I am now going to campaign for Brexit with everything that I'm worth, because you know what? 9 years of this shit and we haven't got anywhere. Hasn't
and
worked
that's
yet.
the April Fool.
Actually, no, it is. It is the April Fool.
So I mean, you know, so you literally wouldn't recognise yourself. The today's Ben wouldn't recognise Ben from 2015.
Well, I think,
or vice versa.
In terms of being incentivized, motivated, enthusiastic, and passionate about putting this mistake right, no, because I was like everybody else. I had a life to live and career aspirations, everything that other normal people without this political, sort of focus have. But it, like I say, it was a light bulb moment, and I just thought, how can I contribute to this? What can I do? I don't want to make it about me, because I saw very quickly that quite a few people were doing just that, and it was very easy to spot. So I just thought, well, there doesn't appear to be any kind of radio show. I like music. How can I combine the two? Yeah. And the most staggering thing for me, and it remains so to this day, about single-minded rejoiners, which was then, of course, called, but it was originally called 16 Million Voices, then 16 Million Rising. But the SMR bit stuck because, what's the name of that academic bloke?
AC
grey-haired bloke. Grayling. Yes. The wonderful AC Grayling told me, stop using the word 16 in all your graphics and your show, because it draws people back to the referendum. We want to be moving forward. And he's right. Yeah. So I've always tried to keep the show positive, keep it relatively optimistic. But, head in the clouds, feet on the ground is what I've always thought about it as, because we are looking, we are aiming for something quite bold here, quite staggeringly optimistic and kind of almost out of reach, impossible. Yeah. But I don't believe it is impossible. I think we're hearing the words inevitable from a lot of commentators now, an awful lot more. We are going to return.
Must have had some time, some on the calls. Say, for example, December 2019 when Johnson won. God. You must have thought, why am I doing this? Screaming into the void.
Do you know what? For me, it's like watching a very depressing film by Ken Loach or Mike Leigh or any European director, very navel-gazing film about how awful the life experience is. For me, I don't get depressed watching depressing films. I feel slightly more grateful that my life isn't so crap. And so therefore, that sort of translated into politics. When terrible things happen, like when Johnson kicked out the last 20 or so half-decent Tories, leaving nothing but, oh my God, bin juice. Political bin juice.
They were, weren't they? They really were.
God, when he literally destroyed what was left of the party, invented this oven-ready Brexit, lied to the Commons to get it through, prorogued Parliament so no one could even talk about it, that just incentivized me more. That just gets me more, not upset, not even angry, just determined.
So you transform your rage and your injustice into just energy.
I kind of just think, no, I've got to keep going. And I tell you the other reason that I think a lot of people who do what we do have to keep going is because if they quit, and I don't mean this in an arrogant way whatsoever, but if you've got listeners, if you've got followers, if people look at what you do and applaud it and commend it, if you quit, you take them at the very least with you, because a lot of them will think, well, imagine if Steve Bray stood up outside Parliament and said, I've been doing this for 10 years, it hasn't worked, I'm off. He would take an awful lot of people that had not quite his level of determination and zeal and guts. He'd take them down with him because, well, if Steve can't be asked anymore, why should I? Yeah. So I think all of us in this campaign that have any kind of following at all, and I only have a few listeners for SMI, it's a very small little show.
Not that small, Ben.
I'm very grateful to the supporters for it, those who subscribe, those who listen regularly, because it's in the hundreds. I'd like it to be in the thousands, if not tens of thousands, but it's in the hundreds. But I have a responsibility to them. I've led them down a path, and I can't suddenly now say, do you know what? It's been fun,
not
but it
playing
hasn't
anymore.
worked.
Yeah,
I'm
and
not
I
playing
do
anymore.
think. I mean, I have to say that in the darkest times where I just can't bear to put the news on anymore.
Yeah.
Your show has actually kept me connected to what's going on.
My mum says that. You know what? It's
Yeah.
really weird because I mean I know they only listen because they're my mum and dad. That's what mum and dad do. They listen to every week's show. They usually listen a few days late.
That's not entirely fair.
No, it's not entirely fair. But
maybe they actually enjoy it. I don't
No,
listen
but the point
to
I was
my
gonna
children's output.
But yeah, absolutely, they do enjoy it. They're blessed and they're proud of me. But what mum always says is, "Oh, I don't watch the news anymore." And then she'll say, "I don't need to because you tell me what I need to know on the show."
Well,
but
yes,
it depresses her.
But for that, thank you, because
you know
when it is unbearable, there's at least you.
I can honestly say, with my hand on my heart, when I'm optimistic, when I'm positive about what I think the outcome is going to be, even on a very, very low week when the news cycle has been really, really distressing.
Yeah.
I genuinely feel that optimism because
Wow.
I look around me at the sort of the dynamics of this situation, and I agree with all those that are saying it's inevitable. We will return at some point. Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer and the front bench are going to have to say, if we want growth, and no one's put it better than Peter Cordes. It's as if he's sitting in front of a massive, massive bank of loads of little buttons flashing at him saying improve growth and improve GDP, boost the economy by 0.00001%. And he's pushing all these little buttons. There's a massive throbbing red button in the top right-hand corner or top left-hand corner that says improve GDP by 4 to 6%. And he's ignoring that one. At some point, he's going to have to do the inevitable, join the customs union, join the single market. That's going to place Labour at a point in the polls where they need to be to defeat reform. Because at the moment, he's handing them all sorts on a silver platter.
Yes, he is. And
they
must know that they're doing that.
Well,
or do they?
I don't know. But like Femi, who I spoke to about this a week ago, we're mystified about what Labour are doing, who they're kowtowing to, who they're terrified of, what it actually is that's preventing Keir Starmer from doing what we all know he knows is the right thing to do. He stood on the People's Vote stage and campaigned for a second referendum.
He did.
We know the majority of Labour are pro-European.
Well, I know.
I listened to the debate.
I spoke to a friend of mine that helps run the local group here, and she's stood as a candidate for Labour in the past, and she put herself forward this time. Didn't get selected, but I said, had they selected you and you'd won, what where would you be right now? And she said, I'd be sitting as an independent.
Oh, goodness me.
She's so distressed, and she's been a Labour councillor, Labour candidate. She's been a Labour activist for the whole of her life, and she's in such a distressed state.
Do you know what?
I have no idea what Labour think that they're doing, but the situation that we've got now with Trump may well
this is what I was going to
say.
Yeah. There are so many other internal and geopolitical sort of external factors at play here. And it's all connected with the wider issues that we kind of assume people who are pro-European are in favour of, inclusion, diversity, compassion, tolerance.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily, not in all cases, but there are some pretty big overlaps that I think are fairly safe to assume.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm reasonably woke, but I'm not mega ultra woke. There are one or two things that just confuse me, but that's a story for another time.
Yes,
but I kind of think with Trump in America doing what he's doing, with Putin threatening Eastern Europe, then in this country you've got the cost of living crisis, you've got identity politics, cultural politics, all that nonsense going on, and of course the rise of reform. We cannot allow the country to, it's already been conned again. The same people by the same guy.
I know.
You couldn't write it. We've got to do everything we can to stop that happening. And when you see Labour falling into Farage's lap with some of this stuff, you just think, no, I'm more incentivized, I'm more motivated now than ever.
Yes.
But I genuinely do think we're getting somewhere. But no, it's about far more than just rejoining the European Union. It's about putting right so much that's wrong with our political system.
Yeah.
On so many levels, and that's educating kids in school about what it means to have the right to vote.
Yeah,
the franchise to vote. It's the press, it's the right wing press, their dominance on UK politics, and therefore everybody's life. And of course, ultimately, it's about rejoining the world's biggest trading bloc and peace project.
Yes.
Which has, let's remember, has been weakened too by us leaving it, one of the three strongest, biggest economies leaving it, which is why Putin saw his opportunity and thought, now's the time to strike.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, I mean, I agree with that. And a lot of people still don't believe the links between Putin, Brexit, Trump, and, the far right globally.
Because fake news.
Yeah, exactly. And the way that they're using, for example, the conviction of Marine Le Pen yesterday. And they're all saying, it's a deep state conspiracy, and you can kind of understand why they don't go after Farage, because there will be stuff on Farage, but these people just become martyrs, don't they?
They do, and I hope I'm not naively being optimistic, because you look at that phrase, "Pop will eat itself." Populism is eating itself right now. I mean, you hear that in the background there, the world's smallest violin playing for Marine Le Pen, who will probably never be president of France. How sad! And it's the same in this country. I mean, we've already got the Reform Party down from 5 MPs to 4. My money's on probably Lee Anderson next, because he has been kicked out of the Labour Party, the Tory. I mean, 2 races for the Tories. Yeah. And the irony is that Farage is trying to distance himself from the likes of Tommy Robinson and the out and out goose-stepping Nazis that he's being lumped in with. Yeah. That's going to possibly, ironically, be his downfall, because someone like Lee Anderson is going to sooner or later say something really stupid, and he's going to have to go. So they'll be down to 3.
And of course, most people don't support. They just don't. They don't support the far right, and in this country, they never have. The establishment may well have quite a lot of long-standing far right.
But even
characters.
More than that, do you know what you were doing at the Reform Conference in Brum last Friday, and what the Trade Union Congress were doing? They were, and this is the importance, because we talked on the show recently about the difference between stupidity and ignorance. You can't blame the majority of people who are ignorant for being ignorant. They just don't know something. We assume they do. They didn't know. These people don't know that Nigel Farage wants to privatise healthcare and take it away from them. And when you tell them that, they're then faced with the dilemma of saying, oh, well, I know and don't care now, so what? Yeah. And some of them will be like that.
It creates cognitive dissonance in them, because,
it does,
because he's set himself up as a cult leader.
But the footage that was produced last week, and I know this is edited footage, does suggest that there are a huge amount of people that think they support reform, that when they find that out are like, well, I didn't have them down for that. I thought they were for the common man, for the ordinary working family. That surprises me. I'm going to have to look
my
again.
Singing. He's not on your side.
He's not.
Because he isn't. And the other one that wasn't filmed was, he just wants your cash. He just wants your cash. Nigel Farage just wants your cash.
I mean, we know that's true. And it's a cult, it's a religion. It's very difficult to get through when people have made it part of their identity. But they didn't
sell out. And the one thing that really struck me last Friday in Birmingham was it was not busy. It really wasn't. There were a lot of police and security with nothing to do. And when they came to eject myself and Peter Core
and Femi,
they got Femi. That was a separate incident that they got Femi. They came and got us. I managed to kind of eke a few more minutes on the premises by complimenting the security guard's makeup.
But you know what, Rachel? You brilliant stuff. You're right. And it's all great footage. I mean, the Reform Party eject a black journalist and a working class army veteran. This happens to Femi
all the time. It's all.
I mean,
it's just awful.
I know it does, but you would think they would try and address their problem with optics and comms, but still, no.
Well, no, because they think they're Jimmy Savile now. Who on earth came up with that?
But this is the other thing, you see. Like I said, pop will eat itself. Yes. They're not the brightest tools in the box. They haven't got the best advisors, and we know what happens even when you do have the best, highest paid advisors. You still cock it up. Look at Rishi Sunak's election campaign. Yeah, we're assuming he paid for that, and look how it went. Yeah. So no, I do very, very, very strongly believe that there's a harvest to be made from those that think they support reform by simply telling them the truth and watching them whittle away. You're right. There was the capacity of that venue was 15,800, and they sold less than 10,000 tickets. Yeah. That was supposed to be the biggest political rally in history, I believe.
And they all had things in common. They were all misfits. All of them, all of the people. And in many ways, I have quite a lot of compassion for them because I really do, because they are misfits. They don't fit in. Life isn't kind to them and they don't know why. And so populism does what it says on the tin. Easy answers. Nigel Farage tells these people what they want to hear, and Bob's your uncle, and here we are. So where do we go? Where do we go from here?
Well, where do we go from here? Well, first of all, the foundations are strong. I mean, it's often spoken about that we are now in the UK the biggest pro-European movement in Europe. That it doesn't always feel that way, but now that I'm on Tickety Talk, I'm finding even more layers of creativity and campaigning and activism that overlaps and forms
TikTok
a lovely little Venn diagram of their own.
It's so cool.
Eurotalk is great. It's fantastic. But what these people need, what Alex Kerr needs with Political X, what Max Robespierre needs with his Robespierre channel, what Phil Morehouse needs, what a lot of us need is an injection of support, faith and cash from the big boys, from Alan Sugar, from Gary Lineker, from the people who've got a little bit of cash, who like to come out of the woodwork occasionally and say, Brexit's crap, we need to rejoin the EU. Well, your contribution, Alan, is dishing out a few million to the campaigns on the ground that have been doing this shit for 10 years on a shoestring, on a budget.
Alan Sugar, Gary Lineker, whoever else I can't think of at the moment. Give us your dosh, dudes.
Get your wallets out,
so
guys.
Much for George Soros. I never saw a cent from him.
Neither did I.
None of us did.
Yes, we're all funded by Soros. No, we're not all funded by Soros. I've never heard of the guy. He's certainly never given me anything.
I know.
SMR, like a lot of these campaigns, relies often on people who can't afford to contribute, giving £5, £10 a month. The average is between there. It's somewhere. It's about £7 a month that people that give me to do the show. Bless him. Peter Corn, National Rejoin March, pay for it to go on the podcast platform, so that it's on Deezer, Spotify, Amazon Music, Alexa, Apple iTunes.
Well, good, because that tells everybody, if you've not been listening to SMR, A, sup with you, and B, get it listened to.
Absolutely. We're doing our best to get it out there. But every time someone says, oh, I've never heard of that, I just think, yeah, I know. And that's there's nothing more I can do. It's not your fault you've never heard of it. It's just not thrust under your nose by the algorithm.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So we're going to rewind back to the beginning here.
Okay.
You're going to send me an MP3 of one of your tracks. Which one's it going to be, Ben?
That's one of the tracks that I've written myself.
One of yours, because in the middle of all of this, it's very easy to forget where we all came from, and you came from music. So let's do that.
Well, I mean, I've written a few. Well, you'd call them EDM. I prefer trance music.
Okay.
But I've written a few tracks in the past, and I did actually put together an album of what I considered to be the Brexit experience without words, without lyrics, just the experience of Brexit. So it's difficult to pin down one, but I did a track when I was sort of experimenting with Cubase and putting music together digitally and via the computer with a wonderful track. A hymn actually called For Those in Peril on the Sea. I believe it's the US or the UK's naval hymn.
Yeah.
And I did a version of that called Eternal Tempest that I'm still pretty proud of, because I just think it's got a great groove. It's uplifting. It's a little bit comical. You can imagine all the pirates on the ship swinging from the sails and the rigging, swigging back whatever it is they drink on pirate ships. But I just thought I did. I mean, it's not an original, but I did something, and don't worry, it's totally out of copyright because it was written about 18 something.
Sure,
by,
yeah.
I can't remember the name. Whiting, someone Whiting, I think, wrote this. But now did a version of it called Eternal Tempest, and I just think it makes it. I put it on sometimes if I want to listen to my own music. It makes me feel happy.
Well, good for you. Thank you so much for coming on Your Turn with me, Ben Chambers, ladies and gentlemen. Eternal Tempest by Ben Chambers. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure, Rachel. It really has.